All right, on today's episode, we interviewed Raj Kankaria, where we talked about leaving the military, going into college, and going investment banking, and then leaving and really kind of stumbling into just a short-term means to make some money and really meeting the business owner and ultimately buying a process server company and what that business is about and some of the things to kind of look at. Right. And he got an amazing structure with a seller and he's, only a few months into it, but off to the races. And really a lot of nuggets in this one. So Casey, what were some of your takeaways?
Man, first off, what a cool business. I just didn't even think about that type of business, and it's just amazing at how many type of businesses are out there. And it's one of the things I love about doing this podcast. But one of the things that Raj says in the meeting that is just, it goes across the board, doesn't matter what you're trying to do in your life. But, when you have a really terrible moment and instead of looking at it as, man, it's all over. It's like, hey, where's that opportunity? And if he wouldn't have had that mindset, and if he wouldn't have done that, he would have never stumbled into the industry. He would have never, ever ended up with this company. And so having that mindset as an entrepreneur that, hey, things are going to go wrong. It's going to happen. Okay. So how do you make lemonade out of lemons, right? Yeah. It's that mindset. And that was a big takeaway for me with Raj today.
No, agreed. And it's just always fun to learn about new businesses. And I always assumed process servers were hired by the courts. Didn't realize there's actually like an intermediary there. So again, really cool space and lots of good nuggets for someone that's looking to buy a business that is kind of, something that they may not be aware of, but really step in and operate it. So. Welcome to the M&A Launchpad Podcast with your hosts, Casey and Feras with Equity Launchpad. On this podcast, you will gain insights on acquiring, investing in, and selling profitable businesses in the lower to middle market. Whether you're a business owner, investor, or aspiring entrepreneur, at Equity Launchpad, we will provide you with the knowledge, guidance, and capital to navigate the world of mergers and acquisitions.
Hey guys, go ahead and just pause the podcast for a second. When you're buying a business, you need to ensure the financial health of the company. The quality of earnings is mission critical. It doesn't matter what size business you're buying. Patrick O'Connell Advisory Group, they're dynamic. They do a great job. They're going to look over your shoulder. They're going to make sure that you're doing the right thing. And this guy's done over 200 buyers successfully, just like you. So reach out to him. And it's O'ConnellAdvisoryGroup.com. Click the link in our show notes. Can't live without it.
Hey, Raj, welcome to the show.
Hey, Casey. Hey, Feras. Great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man, the local Houstonian. We're looking forward to.
I think the only Houstonian we've interviewed on the podcast I can think of, so that worked out well. So far,
yeah.
Yeah. So, Raj, for the listeners, you want to share a little bit about your background and what you're currently doing?
Yeah, sure. I'm originally from Houston, Texas. After I graduated from high school, I went to the military academy, served for 5 years in the U.S. Army, went to a lot of cool places like Fort Hood, Korea, Missouri. Decided to come back to Houston. Got my MBA at Rice, worked as an investment banker for several years, worked in corporate finance at an LNG company, got laid off, went through a divorce, and found myself wrapped up in an acquisition of this company called Lone Star Attorney Service. And now I own and operate the largest process service company in Harris County.
All right, so that was definitely the most concise intro we've had. So let's
talk the military. You got that military right to the point. We love it.
Yeah. So let's unpack that a little bit, right? So you went, you finished up the military, came back and decided to go get a degree, right? Went into investment banking. And was that kind of always the plan? Did you grow up planning for that, or did you just kind of stumble into that? And then the real question I think for listeners is what made you make that transition, right? Decide, I'm going to go and buy something.
Yeah. So I'll start with the investment banking question. I was able to connect with a lot of good mentors coming out of the Army. One of them was a guy named Matt Kukta. He had been a student at Rice. He was going to investment banking. He presented all the parallels to me of what investment banking job would be like compared to what the Army job was like. So he presented to me the idea of working in a hierarchy, working in an intense work environment. So I came back to Houston with the intent of going to business school to become a oil and gas investment banker. After I finished a few years there, I did a few transactions in the LNG space, got an amazing, highly lucrative, very shiny ball job offer from an LNG project. Little did I know that the risks involved in that project, it shut down, found myself without a job. So I explored a number of options. I applied to become a police officer. I tried to get a pilot's license. I just wanted to do something that was a little bit, I found that entrepreneurs have this need for constant stimulation. And it's always been kind of the theme of my life. And so I wanted to do something that was different. one of the things that I was looking at was acquiring a business. I knew that I didn't want to go back to a corporate job, wanted to do something different, thrilling, something that would satisfy that itch for me. And the option that I liked the most was buying and acquiring a business. And the story behind that is also pretty interesting. If you want to get into detail about that, I think that is kind of the highlight of my acquisition journey. But I got laid off from the LNG company. At the same time, I had an angry wife that wanted to leave. So she sent me divorce papers. There's a guy that showed up at my door and he served me the divorce papers. And I asked him how much it cost him to serve me. And after getting laid off, I had a lot of bills to pay. I'd gotten used to living the life of an investment banker. And I was like, man, I can do about 10 of these a day. He told me it was a price close to a little over $100. So I was like, I could do 10 of these a day. This is a business right here while I get to my next, figure out what I was going to do next. So I got a process server's license, started serving papers, got really close with the owner of Lone Star. He would ask me for business advice every now and then, and I'd offer it to him. I'd offer him my thoughts and opinions. We really grew to like each other. He wanted to exit, and I wanted to acquire. And so that's how we got here.
It's the thing I love about it is it's like when the door shuts in your face, right? And you feel like, oh my God, everything's going to shit. The entrepreneur looks at the guy delivering the divorce papers as an opportunity, right?
Happens to ask a question and then let him down thinking through it, right?
So many times in my journey as an entrepreneur, it at the worst of times and those challenges is where I find these opportunities, right? And I think it's that mindset shift of looking at things instead of like the world's ending is like, well, hey, obviously there's going to be a door that opens. Where is that door? And so that's it's a pretty good way to walk into entrepreneurship.
So really quick, I guess for the listeners, can you explain to them what a process server is? 'Cause I'm guessing most listeners don't. Fortunately, Casey and I probably do way too much legal, so we know a lot more on that. But what is a process server? And maybe the more interesting thing is, why were you thinking, you know what, I'll become a process server versus going back in investment banking?
Well, I hadn't closed the door on investment banking. I was looking at opportunities in investment banking as well. But I don't think at that time I was in the mindset to do well in an interview or hold that kind of job until I had kind of recovered emotionally from what was going on in my personal life. So that door hadn't closed for me then. And then a process server. So in the litigation process, the first step is for the attorney to file a petition to sue someone. Once that petition is filed, the citation and the petition have to be, as part of the American judicial process, the citation and the petition have to be hand-delivered to the defendant. So the guy getting sued is the defendant. Those documents have to be hand-delivered to them. The process server has to be certified. The certification standards vary state to state, but essentially the person has to be certified to deliver these legal documents. They show up, identify the defendant, and serve them the legal papers. It is at that point at which the defendant can then respond to that lawsuit. And so it's a critical, essential service that's a part of our judicial process. I decided to do it because it was just the fastest way for me to make a buck at the time. I mean, you could drive Uber, you could do DoorDash, but compared to $10 a job, I'd rather get paid $100. And it's also thrilling because you get to drive around in random parts of town. You don't have any food or people sitting in your car. All you have to do is deliver a paper, and you can knock them out fairly quickly too. And so I was doing it just as something temporary until I found my next role, which could have been in investment banking. It could have been a corporate job. I wasn't really sure at the time. I just knew that I needed to do something.
So when you sat with the owner, so you're at Lone Star, you're servicing for him. You're obviously probably one of his better producers, consistent. You show up on time. I'm sure you're one of those employees that he was like, "I love you," right?
Were you an employee or a contractor, actually?
I was a contractor working for Lone Star Attorney Service. Yeah, and I was working for a number of different agencies. I had a couple of my own clients as well that were lawyers, just starting up. But my biggest client was Lone Star Attorney Service, and they would kick me, 10, 15 jobs a day. And so, I was essentially a 1099 contractor doing these deliveries of legal documents.
And so you start getting into like asking him about how the financials work at the company. Did all of a sudden, I guess in these business questions you and him start coming, he starts to go, you start to figure out how much money he's making, what his overhead looks like. I imagine that those things start happening for you to go, man, this could be a great business to buy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the business is very simple. The prices for each serve are written out on the website. The volume he showed me one day in the office, just to illustrate to me the scope of his business. I knew how much each server was getting paid because I was one of them. And then there may have been some minimal back office support staff costs. So you're seeing margins of about 25 to 30%. And so the math just made a lot of sense to me. And then all the revenue is essentially recurring because the clients are very sticky. Once an attorney finds a good process server, they typically don't want to switch. And so 90 to 95% of the clients are all sticky sources of recurring revenue. Very rarely do you have, yeah, go ahead.
No. I was going to ask just two interesting questions on this whole thing, right? I think, again, just for people to understand, because I think most people don't understand the inner workings of the legal system, right? The attorney is hiring the process server. In this case, right, it was Lone Star, which then hired you as a 1099, right? The attorney is paying Lone Star. They're paying you, right? They're obviously netting the profit. And I think the question is, A, if you don't find the person, do you get paid, right? And then B, is the attorney, where is that money coming from that's coming from the attorney, right? Is it part of the court fees just to even initiate the lawsuit? Is it the defendant? Is it the plaintiff? I mean, who is paying for that?
Yeah, so to answer your first question, yes, it's the attorney paying for the job. The money comes from three different places, depending on what type of court case it is. If it's a family law case, they typically collect money from the defendant up front, and then use those funds to pay for all the litigation support that goes into the case. If it's a personal injury case, for example, then they front the money themselves and then reimburse on the back end once a settlement or the litigation process is completed. For debt collection, they're really price sensitive because they can only reimburse those fees that they fronted after the lawsuit is completed and they settle on some type of debt collection agreement. So those are the sort of sources of funds for the attorneys to pay for this. And then if people are not found, you do still get paid because you've confirmed that the address is bad or you've exhausted the maximum number of attempts, which is 4. And then you have to provide a locate service to help find the defendant.
I did not know that.
I didn't either.
And then maybe last question, we can get back to the business. This is for the listeners. You have a really interesting story of whenever you're out there trying to process someone. I mean, because I can imagine that for some people, that's not a good day, right? And do people freak out? Anything interesting there to share?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, in this business, we are basically perpetual bearers of bad news. And so I have countless stories. Just the most interesting one that comes to mind was a attorney hired me on New Year's Eve last year to infiltrate a rapper's New Year's party. I don't remember which one it was, but apparently some rapper had flown in. He wanted to have a New Year's party here in Houston. It was some child support case. He was avoiding service, but they knew that he was going to be here for a party. So the attorney needed a process server to go infiltrate the party as an attendee, find the guy, introduce themselves, and then serve him the documents. So I went and did that on New Year's Eve, made a bunch of money off of it, but that was probably the most thrilling experience I've had as a process server so far.
What did his face look like when you did that? Was it just caught him off guard?
Just caught him off guard. He was he was essentially expecting it. So it was more like, all right, you got me kind of reaction.
I'd be nervous. People would get violent.
Did you go, hey, you're out, get out of the party? Was it more like, hey, thanks, get out? Or
stick around, hang out?
No. I mean, typically after you serve someone, you never want to stick around. So whether it's him or anybody else, I just serve them, turn around and walk away. I don't really like to linger or answer too many questions. Because you never know how people are going to react after receiving one of these. So I served them and then just kind of bolted out of there. Not ran.
A recon mission there for you, right?
I think, man, you start a TV show, all right? That's how you can really grow Lone Star. You start a TV show, just kind of the serving and all the things that happen.
There was one at some point. I forgot what it was called, but there is a reality show for Service of Process.
Yeah, because it's kind of a sister business.
There is a reality show out
possessing.
there. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, the way I grew up, my father was a West Point grad. He was a Ranger.
Okay.
And so I grew up in a military family. He didn't stay in. He served his 5 years and then he went into the normal world. But it took him probably 10 years to no longer act and be a Ranger, just kind of a different mentality. But I always ask this. My dad did take incredible leadership skills and things from the military that applied into his everyday life, discipline, all of these different things that I got to witness as a kid. I was also not allowed to even talk about joining the military. It was like the one thing I wanted to be was like my dad, and that was a conversation he did not want to have. But one of the things that he did teach me is a lot of those disciplines and skills that he did. I mean, my dad woke up every morning and did 50 push-ups. Well, it was 100 for a while. And I mean, he did that forever. Like he had the same routines. And so one of the things I asked the military guys that run businesses is, talk to me a little bit about the skills that you learned in the military, leadership wise, that you're now applying into your current business, because those are, obviously running a business is one thing, but leadership is everything. And so what have you felt like has carried through to your current business, right? Those skills, and what are you using as your leadership skills?
Yeah. So there's two skills that were really important to me and that I carry into my business now. The first one is dealing with adversity and just having a resilient mindset and expecting that things aren't going to go well. So you plan with the expectation that it's going to fail, and then when something does fail, you're able to quickly pivot and fix it. So that's more of an operational leadership skill. When it comes to managing people, there's really only one principle that I truly live by, and that is that I would never ask anyone to do something that I'm not able or willing to do myself. And I think that if everyone followed that one principle, people would follow them anywhere. So any task that I have my staff do, I know I've learned how to do myself, and I'd never assign them anything that I'm not willing or able to do myself. That I'm not willing to do myself. So if they need to work late, I'm right there with them. If they need to do something that's tedious, I'm right there rolling up my sleeves helping them. And it's not so much because the business needs it, but it's because it's a symbolic gesture to motivate everyone to achieve the goals that we need to achieve to get where we need to be.
I love it, man.
So then I guess to kind of really get into the business, right? So you were, I'm guessing one of the top process servers for Lone Star, right? Getting to probably know the seller much better, which is really the best way to buy a business, right? If you can infiltrate, quote unquote, that business, you see behind the scenes beforehand, you know what you're getting into, you're learning the space, you're knowing when the owner is frustrated, when they're not, right? Because no business is easy, right? Those are some of the best ways. And so I guess the question is, how did the conversation of buying the business come up, right? Did the seller just mention it off the cuff and it clicked, or, was it something else?
No. So, around December of last year, he had mentioned to me that he's probably going to be selling the business, but in order to do so, he would need to merge with another company down here in Houston to achieve the scale to get to the multiple that he wanted to sell the business at. So we fell out of touch for about 3 months, from December to March. Then he called me up in March and informed me that merger had fell through, the sale had fell through, and now he's just looking to organically grow the business and sell it. So he actually asked me to run the company versus buy it. And so instead of just accepting a job offer, I countered it with an offer to buy the business instead, because I was interested in becoming a business owner. He was interested in exiting. So we had a few lunches ahead of it, and finally came to the conclusion that what would be best for all of us would be if I buy the business, and he just stays on as a passive investor in it.
Very nice. So how did you structure it?
How big is the business? What's the revenue? What's the structure? And kind of how did the whole deal look like?
Yeah. So when I was buying the business, it was about a little bit over $1 million business. The way that we structured it was we seller financed about 60% of it. The owner retained 30% equity. And then I made a down payment that was equivalent to 50% of enterprise value. I brought in a friend to make the other half of the down payment. So we came to a valuation of about $1 million. Seller financed 600,000 of it. He kept 300,000 of equity, and I brought in 100,000. Split two ways between myself and a friend from business school.
What did the acquisition? What was the date the acquisition happened? Was this in the last couple of years?
I think March of 25, right?
No, we closed actually June 16, 2025.
Okay.
So
all right,
it's
so
been
it's
about
very recent.
about 4
Yeah.
months.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, and when you talked with the seller, because one of the things that I try to do is get the seller to carry paper. I mean, it's not because it's some slick move or whatever. It's when I'm talking about legacy with them, I tell them that the biggest risk, the biggest risk about the legacy is if we bring a banker into the equation and things don't go as planned, it's no longer our destiny. It's no longer
is toast. Yeah.
It's no longer here anymore, right? And by them, they believe in the business. It's their business. They've lived and breathe it. If I show them the interest that they're going to earn while they're carrying the note, and they see that cash flow. So when we were talking with them, were those kind of the key things that you were doing? Help some of our listeners as well think about it, because most people's dream is, oh my God, I don't have to go get an SBA loan, or I don't have to go get a bank note. And I'll be honest with you, have taken those notes and doing seller financing, the pressure is really off when you can get that seller to finance.
Yeah. So aside from those 2 points, there's actually one other benefit that I illustrated to him as well. So the first one was obviously, if we bring a bank into this, something goes wrong, there's some big regulatory change, we both lose the business. The bank is going to seize it. They're going to cut it up and sell it, whatever. They don't know how to run a process service company. In the case that something goes wrong, one of us can keep the business. We can negotiate amongst ourselves. You get your business back plus whatever personal guarantee that I signed. Have a beautiful house in the Heights. You can keep that too. Whatever. So basically the first one was that the assets stay between us. Nice. Second one was I illustrated to him all the interest that he would earn over the span of 7 years, which would essentially increase the value of what he could potentially earn by 25, 30, 40%, whatever. I don't remember the exact number it was, but it was significantly higher than.
It
was significantly higher than.
They actually don't even know, right? But when you show them that interest, they're like, exactly. Oh my God, well, why wouldn't I be the bank? And you're like, exactly, I would be.
Exactly. And you don't have to even provide any cash. You're literally just making free money, right? The third one comes in the form of tax benefits. So while the capital gains tax rate remains the same, you're able to defer all those payments over the span of a number of years. So when you look at that from a present value perspective and opportunity cost perspective, the earnings are quite significant because you can use that money towards something else. So rather than paying, $200,000-300,000 up front, you're spacing it out over 7 years, and you can deploy that capital to do something else with it.
Yeah, and those are all the really key ways to get a seller motivated to seller finance, right? Listeners really should listen to that. And, that last point, it's really like setting up a deferred sales trust, right? We did an episode on that previously, and you're basically baking that in without the seller having to go through the complexity of a true deferred sales trust. And so it's really valuable for a seller if you can explain all the benefits of why they should seller finance. And so for the listeners, right, just to maybe put a bow on it and make sure we got the structure right. It sounds like you guys came up with $1 million valuation. And so $1 million is needed. The seller rolled 30%. He kept 30% of the business. So that's about 300,000. Then he seller financed 60%. So that's 600,000. So really he carried 90% of the business and you bought that last 10%, right? Is that accurate?
Yeah. That's accurate.
And then what was the multiple of the EBITDA and the revenue of the business, just so people can understand kind of what a process server looks like?
Yeah, so the business was valued at $1 million. The EBITDA at the time was forward-looking $250,000, and so I applied a 4x multiple to it. Typically, businesses of this size, probably would get somewhere between a 3 to 4x multiple. I was on the higher end of that just because the financing structure was so favorable.
Very favorable.
And it was
There's
worth.
Another note
it was,
there. Yes.
So can overpay if you get the best structure.
Yeah, and it was worth more to me because I understood the business, I saw the potential, and Patrick was essentially going to stay on, so I was comfortable paying him a higher multiple for it.
Nice. And then maybe what's the revenues on a business like that, just to kind of break down just margins?
The revenue at that time was about $1 million. EBITDA, including owner salary, so SDE they call it, was 250,000.
Cool. So about 25%. And so
Yeah.
you've mentioned a couple times that's what it was whenever you bought it. So how's it been, right? You're about 6 months into it, not even 6 months, probably 4 months into it, right? Feeling great about it, things improving, or you going through a J curve, which is what we see, right? You buy a business, there's the paying, getting just payments in line in terms of getting people situated, paying them better, getting benefits, right? You're going to lose a little bit of customers possibly, right? You're putting yourself on payroll, you're stumbling through some things, all the above, and that's the J curve, right? But then you come out and start to kind of come out of that much stronger. So what have you seen so far?
Yeah. So I'll just tell you the timeline of what I bought, what I did, and where we're at now. But I bought this business, and I was fortunate enough to surround myself with the right people who gave me some really good advice. And I heard from multiple people that the best thing to do is go in. So I started working in the office while we were doing the acquisition. So my due diligence was actually, working in the business, and so we really had no formal diligence process. Anytime something popped into my head, or I had a question about something, or I wanted to look at something, he would just let me look. He would send it to me, or I was sitting in the office, so I saw operations firsthand for about a month before even buying the business. So we had no formal diligence. So I knew exactly what I wanted to change as soon as we closed on the deal. I was able to surround myself with a lot of good people that gave me some really good advice. And one thing that I'd heard over and over and over again that actually went against the grain was, in the first 30 days after you buy a business, the employees are most open to change because they're afraid of losing their job. They don't know if you're going to keep them. They don't know if you're going to let them go. And so if all you do is make a couple of changes, but keep them on board, that's a favorable outcome for them. And that's when they're most willing to adjust to any kind of change. And so I came in and within a couple of weeks, just put all the policies in place that I thought would work for the business, that would keep things running smoothly. Things that I didn't like, I changed around, and then let go of one person as well in a span of about 3 weeks. So I wanted it to be a place where the culture was one that I enjoyed coming into every single day. So I did that first. When I had the right staff in place, I immediately started implementing something called EOS. I'd gotten some great advice that whatever operating system you use, have something in place to have goals, keep everyone aligned, working towards the same end state, and a framework for holding everyone accountable. And so did those two things, and immediately just saw the business start to grow. So when I bought it, we were doing about 700 to 800 jobs a month. And in the month of September, we just closed on 1,200. So ever since we made those changes, it's been growing quite rapidly as well, because every week we have our L10 meeting where we identify the issues that are keeping us from growing and come up with solutions and what we need to do to reach the targets that we've set for that quarter.
Oh, that's a respectable amount of growth in a very short amount of time, right? In question, whenever I hear those kinds of things, it makes me think, what you focused on really was the leads side of the business, right? Not the production side. And so, I mean, was it the big increase? Was that due to sales and marketing strategies that you put in place that were kind of missing, or was it just lack of consistent follow-up? And maybe the other part of the story we didn't ask is, how long had the seller run the business before you bought it?
So I was actually the second owner of this business after the founder. The founder started the business in 1995. So the business had actually a really nice foothold in Houston and Harris County in Texas. The owner that bought it from the original founder, he bought it in 2021, ran it for 4 years, and then sold it to me in 2025. And so he ran it for 4 years. When he bought the business, it was actually half of what it was when he sold it to me. So he bought it when revenues were about 500,000, and they were doing 300 to 400 jobs a month. I bought it from him at $1 million when they were doing about 700 to 800, and then have grown it since then to a volume of about consistent 1,200 jobs a month.
Wow. And last question for me is,
sorry, was it because of a big sales push though, or some other factors that kind of really helped get that growth?
Yeah, so there's a couple of factors. We were very well set up with our tech provider, InfoTrack, and we became a preferred vendor for them in the state of Texas. I really haven't even, to be quite fair, I had a couple of strokes of really good luck when I first came in. I mean, we had to get the company operationally set up, but I got the company operationally set up, got the name out through, a couple of podcasts, LinkedIn posts, my own personal network that I did. That was really the only marketing that I did. But we were set up really well with our tech provider. They really liked us. We liked them. We had scale in Texas. We had the operability. So we signed a preferred partner agreement with them, and then InfoTrack sends most, if not all, their Texas jobs. They kick them over to us. Then I had a windfall in securing a client that was a tax protest company. They sent us a couple hundred jobs every month, and that I did on my own, just by meeting them through my partner, my life partner, not business partner. She introduced me to O'Connor's. We signed up.
O'Connor Associates. I know them. I use them.
Yeah, signed with them.
I've
we
met
handled
the
their
founder
entire.
once.
Yeah, Patrick O'Connor.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we signed up with them, and are their exclusive provider for their collections business.
Awesome.
Very nice, man.
And then I think you were going to ask a question, Casey, on that.
Oh, I just, was there any technology gains? Did you come in and go, man, they're doing this one of the first things we look at is like, where can we add technology to make things more rapid? Did you find something that was like, man, I can bring this in and make things more efficient?
Not necessarily, but we work very closely with our tech provider to help them through their development cycles for what we think would be great changes to help with our processes. And so we essentially work hand in hand with them, advise them on what updates they need to make. They ask us for feedback and opinions, and we're just in lockstep on what technology changes would be most beneficial to processes in the industry across the board for all their users.
And the nice thing about your business too is that it's a people business, right? I don't see robots going to serve people, anytime soon, right? There's a lot of needing to verify, validate it, that person. So you're at least a little bit in a safe business from that perspective.
I would have never thought about that business, but I love the sticky revenue. I mean, that's pretty solid.
Yeah. And actually, I'll ask one more question before we wrap up. It's kind of maybe even related to us on M&A Launchpad. What's stopping you from growing? Right? Is it, do you have a vision of let's go buy 3 other companies in the space? Is it about buying companies in other states, or are you looking at it purely from just an organic perspective?
No, I mean, nothing's stopping me from growing. I just haven't operated long enough to, talk to me after a year and we'll probably be in a very different sized business. So no, there's nothing stopping the growth. We're looking at acquisitions. We're looking at growing organically. We're structuring our operations to handle a massive amount of volume. Offshore. We're doing all the things that we need to grow. The only thing that's stopping me is just hours in a day. Time. Yeah,
I love it, man.
Exactly.
So it sounds like a fantastic start to your acquisition, and very excited.
Look forward to hearing more about it maybe in a year and see kind of where you're off to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Awesome. No, we have set some fairly We just had our we just completed our EOS implementations and set some pretty lofty goals for the year and the quarter. And, so far there doesn't seem to be any obstacles, but, in these kind of things, you never really know what could go wrong, and something is going to go wrong. Just need to be flexible and adapt to those.
That's great advice. All right, so let's move on into our rocket round. This is when we ask our guests 3 major questions. I'm going to go ahead and start off with the first one first, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
So what do you like to do in your free time, Raj?
So I have a couple of hobbies. I like to fly planes. I got a pilot's license recently.
What airport are you based at?
I don't have a plane myself, but I typically fly the Piper Cherokee. Got an instrument rating, got a private pilot's license, so I enjoy doing that. I love watching football. Follow my fantasy team religiously. Have been in a league for several years, so every Thursday, Monday, and Sunday, you'll find me occupied with that. And then I love meeting other entrepreneurs, expanding my network, talking to people, implementing advice. that's been given to me to people who have gone through the same thing, just chopping it up.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
All right, we'll talk planes after the show. Next question. What's your most memorable moment in your business journey?
The most memorable moment has definitely been in this last month, seeing the company go from a ceiling that it had hit to just busting through it and breaking every company record that over the past 30 years. And also seeing the staff's mindset completely shift once we implemented EOS. So they operate completely differently from the way they did in the first week that I bought it. So complete mindset shift, growth, and just a lot of great things that I've been seeing here last month.
Awesome. Last question. What's your favorite tool or resource?
I'm sure you probably hear this a lot, but OpenAI's ChatGPT. I go to it for, I use it in my personal life. If I need to dissect something to send to my former spouse, I use it. If I need to dissect something to send to my current partner, I use it. If I'm having any conflicts or issues in life, I go to it. And then as far as business, it's a invaluable tool for helping me plan, strategize, deal with any staff issues, create documents, create policies. It's all in one tool for essentially everything in life and business.
Speeds things up. It's pretty amazing tool.
Yeah. I think each day people learn new ways to kind of leverage it. So super powerful.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, Raj, definitely enjoyed the conversation. It was great learning a lot more about process servers. How can people get a hold of you?
LinkedIn. They can reach out via LinkedIn. My email is also a great way to get a hold of me. I'll send an email with both of those, and you can add it into the description. The only thing I ask is that for people that do or are interested in the business, I just ask that you explore getting a process server's license and serve a few documents before reaching out, because I think that understanding the operations is critical to doing this type of business.
Is it easy to get that license?
It's pretty easy to get it. The hard part is actually going around dangerous parts of town and serving documents. But
yeah.
I'm a firm believer in the idea that you have to be able to do the work and understand what the business is before buying one like this.
That is great.
It's hard. It's hard.
Yes. Yeah. Haven't found one yet that's easy.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Exactly.
Raj, thank you very much for today. And we look forward to seeing you hopefully in May at our Houston conference that we're going to be having. We'd love you to have you come out and give everybody an update on how you're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to that as well, and I'll definitely be attending.
Awesome.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on.
Thank you for listening to the M&A Launchpad Podcast. If you've enjoyed today's podcast and would like to support us, please leave us a rating and a review after you listen. If you're looking for guidance on your next business acquisition or sale, capital to support your next business transaction, or to invest in a private equity opportunity, visit equitylaunchpad.com to learn more and to connect with our team. If you know of an individual who would be a great guest for the show, head over to equitylaunchpad.com/nominate, where you'll have the chance to refer yourself or someone else to be a guest on our show. I'm Casey Minshew, and I look forward to talking with you next week.